pregnant. It's pregnant. Mary Prices. Mary Chrysler. That's why, again, we're making lesbians for you. Garnet. Garnet. Let's start with the face, but first, I want to show you how our heads are made before they materialize in our world. It's not a secret that we use free head 3D models from SmartDoll website as a base. All our face designs started as a remake of SmartDoll distro and went through a lot of iterations since the first sculpt. This one is going to be based on our Elphaba sculpt, that was based on Knuckles, that was based on Rouge/Rarity sculpt, that was based on, I don't know, maybe distro herself, but I don't remember. For 3D modeling and 3D sculpting, I'm using a free software called Blender. I'm mostly using the sculpting mode, which means I can manipulate the surface of the model kind of like I would with real clay. So carving, smoothing, pinching, moving, etc. The biggest challenge was the mouth. This time I want a big smile with visible teeth. There was a lot of moments when I had to convince myself, trust the process, because it looked ridiculous. But in the end, I think it didn't turn out as creepy as it looked in the beginning. When I have the face shape ready, I can add the third eye. First, I have to make a new cylinder and shape it into an eye, and then use a Boolean modifier, Boolean, I think that's how you read it, to cut that shape from the forehead. I'm building a bit of structure around the eye to make it look like an actual eye hole and not only a hole. After a few fixes here and there, the face is ready to be printed. As always, we are printing the head in resin, and this time we have a perfect color match with a coffee SmartDoll skin tone, which you can see makes Barb very excited. And because we only have small bust in a coffee color, we're also going to print a bigger bust size for our Garnet. This video is sponsored by THICC, and they sent us their F2 Master Rotary Toolkit to review this time. I think the design is quite gorgeous and pretty genius, and no wonder because it's award-winning. So I decided to display it very nicely in our studio, and I made a charging dock for it. It's perfectly colored with the red version of the cordless drill, but it's available, I think, in 4 colors. But now, let's see how it performs. Alex, take it away! If you saw our last video of making the Vaporeon mermaid, you may have noticed that we already used the THICC rotary tool in that project to make the big thin ears. It was very useful because of its size and lightweight, but also because of a variety of different sanding bits. I was surprised how easy it is to install the bits, and they feel perfectly secured inside. Because the tool is cordless, there's a 2-step turn-on procedure to prevent accidents and surprises, which, you know, I'm clumsy, so it's good that it's there. There's 5 different speeds, and I really appreciate this because most of the rotary tools I used before were too strong for sanding resin prints and soft plastic because it started melting. But THICC has that perfect balance of power and gentleness. For this project, I'm going to use it to carve the back of the ears to give her real earrings, and also sand the printing lines. I usually do it by hand with a piece of sandpaper, but recently my dominant hand is hurting me from working too much, so I really appreciate help from a sanding tool so I can use my hand for something more artistic later in the video. It's definitely going to be a big help and a more healthy way of sanding for my right hand. If you're after a cordless, quiet and very well-built rotary tool, I recommend you check out the THICC F2 Master. I'll leave a link to the THICC store in the description below, and make sure to use our code to get an extra discount and a good deal. And thank you THICC for sponsoring the video. And you can get the dock as well, because I'm gonna publish the files for it. So yours can be as cute as mine. I finished polishing the head with sandpaper and 2 coats of MSC, and the head is ready for painting. Today I feel adventurous, and I'm starting with black pencil. I guess Garnet's confidence rubbed off on me. I sketched the eye shape, and guys, I made a different shape than usual. I recently had a realization that all my eye shapes look the same, and it's just a spiky eyeliner. I know, that's very millennial of me. And when I tried to paint something different, the spike always appeared in the end, in the same place. So I'm happy that this time I didn't give in and left the round shape, because Garnet's eyes are very round. She doesn't have any eyebrows, but I like eyebrows, so she will have eyebrows. When I feel that the sketch is good enough, I can spray the head with Mr. Super Clear, wait 30 minutes to dry, and start working again. This time adding acrylic and vinyl paints to the supplies. These days I'm using black and white vinyl paints, and the rest of the colors are either normal acrylics or liquid acrylics. I want the lips to be warm, neutral color with a natural look, so I'm adding some darker and lighter creases. To soften the look, you can add some chalk pastels. And don't forget to brush the teeth. Those ones are brushed with a paintbrush and an off-white vinyl paint and with warm gray shadows in the corners. Steven Universe characters have very little detail to their looks, and everything is very cartoony and simple, and I want her eyelashes to be kind of chunky and heavy to give her that non-realistic vibe. And there has to be that obligatory white lash that will become brownish red in a few seconds. But I didn't like how it turned out, so I decided to add some more heavy makeup with pastels and then with an airbrush. Unfortunately, my favorite airbrush did a prank on me and released some paint when I stopped pressing, and it made a big black dot on her forehead. Ah! Fuck! I thought you're my favorite airbrush. Fuck you. Oh shit. And it doesn't want to go away. But some scalpel work, and the result is not that bad. But I was very careful when painting the other eye. Now I can remake the outer lashes with pink. Our Sapphire has a few beauty marks, and I thought our Garnet could have some too, because why not? I should have done it at the beginning, but I was scared to ruin something. But now it's finally the time to pierce her ears. I want big hoops, so she has to have big holes. But at this scale, big is small, so I'm picking the smallest Fantic drill and start slowly piercing the resin on the low speed settings. It turned out pretty good, so let's repeat that on the other side. Garnet has that funk in her design, and I think big golden hoops are going to be perfect for her. I also added a few smaller earrings with resin, and I also want to add a nose piercing. And I couldn't resist adding resin on the lips. I don't like the super glossy finish on my own lips, but I think it looks amazing on dolls. I'm going to use the same eyes that we designed for Rose Quartz with stars as pupils. It's such an iconic element of Steven Universe character design, especially for expressing joy or excitement, and this is what I want for our Garnet. Most of the time we see her calm and with a poker face, but when she has a good reason for joy, the emotions on her face are super honest. That's why we chose to make her with a big smile, to celebrate her union of Sapphire and Ruby. To seal the eyes, I'm using UV resin again, and when it's cured, I'm rubbing some Perlix powder in for a shiny effect. For some reason, the nose piercing escaped, I don't know when, and she was left with only a silver metallic dot. But silver is not a theme today, so I decided to fix it by adding a gold leaf on top of the dot. And to be honest, I like it even more than the gold caviar bead she had before. You know, happy accident.
Sewing this one is not unlike the mermaid video where I had to construct the tail first, but here I want to construct some thunder thighs. She's gonna be dummy thick. The real MVP of this video is Barb from 3.5 years ago because she was smart enough to save the sewing pattern for a bodysuit that I made for Rosamond. She did leave some misleading instructions, so I cut the pattern with a bit more seam allowance in case it was too tight and fitted it on the doll to make sure it hugs the doll very tightly.
For the most part, I'm happy. Happy.
After painstakingly squeezing the silicone doll back into the bodysuit, I made a simple lace-up closure. As you can see, Garnet has been very blessed, and while the Attica body is considered curvy, we need more.
She's a drag queen, okay? She needs hip pads. A drag queen! Does she need butt implants too, do you think?
I felt like I could reuse my fleece stacking technique I used in the last video for Vaporeon's tail to achieve my desired look. I made up the shapes of the hip pads as I went, starting with a pretty big oval shape that went almost up to the waist. Then I took some thread and very gently started tacking everything down onto the base bodysuit that I made. I don't know if I mentioned this before, but I discovered waxing my thread for hand stitching, and it's made a huge positive difference in my hand sewing experience. The hip pads themselves made the body look a little too female rapper, so I added a smaller stack a little bit lower and in the front down the thigh to balance it out. Finally, to smooth everything over, I used a thinner fleece without the backing material to make a peanut-shaped cover, which I also hand-stitched to the bodysuit and flattened the edges off with an iron and an iron-on tape. The one problem that I had is that the Adika doll is compatible with the Gen 2 body, but our body that's in coffee is an Evolve frame, so I had to do something about the shoulder blades. Thankfully, I'm an engineer, so... If you asked me what's the most useful tool that I use for making 3D models, I would say it's my calipers. With the measurements of the mounting plate, I could make an Evolve frame compatible socket, and I printed a pair out of PETG filament because it can handle forces being applied.
That's not great. Oh, okay, it works. It does work. But this little dummy didn't notice these pins.
Thankfully, the Fantic multi-tool is extremely portable, so I just yoinked it from the studio right into my purse and filed off the excess plastic at home that was interfering with the pins. I started with a pretty mild diamond bit, but I quickly changed it to a more aggressive one so that I wouldn't spend forever trying to make this work.
Almost.
With a couple of fittings, I was able to correct the shape of my sockets and screw them onto the mounting plate. Now that the body is thickened up, we can start making some clothes. And I'm gonna start with a shirt. These days, I'm making sure that I keep all of the patterns that I use digitally, because reusing a pattern is faster for me than drafting from scratch. The pattern I'm referencing here is actually Kim Possible's turtleneck, which I elongated a bit and changed the sleeve into a more puffy one. I was sewing all of this very last minute because we ordered specially printed fabric to have some gradients and the exact colors that we wanted, so I had to wait for it to arrive. The fabric is lycra, which is quite stretchy, and I have not sewn with stretch in a while, so the result was not great, admittedly.
I did a bad job sewing this together, so we're gonna use it as a template to make the star thing.
I freehanded the star on the first prototype, cleaned it up on the computer, and cut it out on my Cricut from the holographic and pink foil. I recut my pieces from my very limited amount of the right color fabric that I ordered, and realized that the curse of 3 has not yet been fulfilled in this project.
Okay, so nobody is surprised that this didn't work. I am very disappointed in myself that I didn't stop myself sooner. I'll try to remove this to salvage my stitching, but I don't think it will unbond. Yeah, no. And you know what's even worse? I lost the fabric that I'm supposed to use for the rest of the outfit.
And I spent so much time today trying to find it, and I didn't. And now I have to redo this the third time, and it also might not work. And it's already Thursday, and I'm very scared that we will not make the deadline. And when that happens, I feel even less like working, so...
Wish me luck.
After that little rant, or big rant rather, I consulted Alex and got over myself and made sure that the star had a bit of negative space, which would allow for some stretch, and we landed on this concentric star pattern, which also looks cool. I then constructed everything for the third time, making sure that I press my hems with a hemming tape and I trim bulk anywhere I could.
I would like to not redo this more times than I need to, so I am basting everything.
Basting saves time, especially with jersey fabric. I was convinced that doing all the proper correct steps and techniques was going to assure my success, but alas.
I think I jinxed myself. Why? Why am I being tried in this way? Million years later.
The puffy sleeves are just puffy enough, the color and the cups are perfect, and the star is cool and the fit is great.
Ta-da! It's gonna be controversial, but it was worth it. It always ends up being worth it.
Every Enchanterium design, every good Enchanterium design, has a gradient, so we ordered some gradient fabric for the pants. But before the pantalones, we also ordered a bit of a smaller gradient to make her gloves. I made these time and time again. They are this elongated house shape, which then gets hemmed at the elbow and at the roof, I guess, and stitched long ways. Now for the bottom part of the outfit, the pants are going to be constructed in 2 layers. For the right leg, I'm going to use again the same bodysuit pattern to make an inner layer that will carry the gradient from black to red on one of the legs. I tried it on the wrong side on the doll so that I could mark a panty line so that if it sort of peeks out from underneath from the top layer, it will kind of make sense, you know, and not be like a straight harsh line in the middle of the thigh. I took it off the pant leg and trimmed the seam allowances for a more seamless finish, and I also
no, I nicked it. Don't panic. Don't panic. Don't panic. I will affix it with a little bit of fusible interfacing and hopefully it will kind of disappear into the, I don't know, but I have a funny, do you see him? Like this, do you see? Dancing guy. Funny dancing silly guy. Also it's 1 a.m. Anyway, what's going on here? You've seen me do this twice already, so allow me to quietly work on this.
Basically, I did the same but in reverse with some stretchy black faux leather. However, I did not account for the leather only being one-way stretch, so using the same pattern as for the lycra, which is very stretchy in all directions, just didn't work. I had to take the pattern and add a little bit of room in both of the directions, so I slashed it and re-glued it to a piece of paper. And it seemed a little large.
This might be overkill, but I think it's better to take it in than it not fitting, so...
I only had just enough of this fabric to do one more try. Thankfully, it somewhat did work, except that I was cutting off the seam allowance and I was just thinking, wow, this time I'll be so careful. And yet...
Who cursed me? Which one of you cursed me? This time it's in the front. I have no words. I did it. Don't ask me how. And don't look at the back, which kind of sucks. At this moment in time, this is the best I can provide, okay? We don't look at the back anyway, so I'm happy with it in the front. Looks sick with the boots, but you're gonna have to wait for the final reveal.
Last time, for our Vaporeon, I made a very complex wig, so I think I deserve some vacation from making wigs, okay? So we're going to use a black afro wig from Zazu Dolls that we once used on Dawn, the pastel vampire, million years ago. But first I have to know if I can make the glasses from this holographic foil. I tested a few shapes made out of paper, then tested a few shapes made with this foil, and then I found a thicker foil and I cut the shape out of it off camera. They are attached on blue tack because I don't want them to touch the hair too much so the hairstyle doesn't get ruined. So they are just attached with blue tack to the skin. I really like the shape of this wig, but I think we can try making it more square. I'm tying the bangs so it doesn't cover the visor and trying to split it in half so it lays a bit flatter on the top of the head. Then I'm patting the curls to form a cube and also cutting some of the longer strands. It's one of those hairstyles that I will probably have to style a little bit more right before the photo shoot when the head is placed on the body. So for now it looks like this, but later I'll try to make it even more square.
I've reused this shoe form a million times already, and I never get tired of it, so let's make some high heel pointy toe shoes. You've already seen a peek of these in the previous section, but let me show you how I did. Of course, I tape up my last and draw my design lines on, and then I free them from the last with a knife, no! And stick them on some paper to symmetrize the inner and outer parts, because they can be the same. Then, if the last is not symmetric, it will work out anyway. The inner part is split into 2 pieces to allow for a zipper closure. I then cut out all of my pieces out of this faux leather that gives it a little bit of stability, and I will also make a lining later. To attach the zipper to the leather, I'm using a special tape which is made for zipper insertion because it allows you to stitch everything without using pins, which are in the way when you're trying to add a zipper.
Guys, I messed up. It's ugly and I want to redo it. Let's do this a tiny bit more methodically. Construct the lining first. So attach this here and this here. And the same for all of the pieces. And then do the zipper last. And not mess it up this time.
I made sure to press out all the seams, and I find that doing that on the last is easier if you have a very tiny iron, so I'm using my hot fix tool to help. For the faux leather though, I can't just iron it because it would melt on my iron's foot, so I'm using glue.
Please don't laugh. Ah! I'm trying to use it all up. The thing is, we have more Uhu glue, but it's in the studio and it's like 30 degrees outside, and I would rather not go outside in this weather, so.
The heat wave that we've had for the past 2 weeks has really taken a toll on this project because working on doing anything really in this weather is just so unappealing, especially if you're sitting in front of a hot iron and under a hot lamp.
And, oh no, ta-da, 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 oh come on, da, oh, why, ta-da, now we last it, We cannot work like this. Okay.
Before I can last the shoe, I need to trim off the zipper and I make sure to secure it with a little bit of thread. On my last, I have attached an insole with a temporary glue and apply a permanent glue to the bottom of the sole and the edges of the upper.
No. Oh no. Did I forget how to do this? Please stick. I got myself surgical fucking scalpel, so we're gonna use that today instead. Nice and fresh and very sharp. I don't know how to demonstrate the sharpness other than just let's start cutting stuff. Oh, this is beautiful. I think the razor might be still my favorite, but if you're concerned about your fingers more than I am about mine, maybe this is an option for you. Yes. Okay. It's gonna be fabulous when I glue this in. So, yippee!
Fabulous indeed. If I had a nickel for every time I made huge gauntlets for a doll, I would have 3 nickels because I am making another set of giant gauntlets for a doll. 3 nickels is not that much. But it's weird that it happened thrice. I don't know if you realize, but whenever you make something multiple times, every next iteration is better. So this time, modeling this was not really the hardest part. The aforementioned heat wave was the hardest part because our studio is not the best ventilated and I was literally sweating buckets while wearing hazmat appropriate personal protective equipment. But it was well worth it because the new gauntlets turned out superb. I think this is savable in a very strange way, where this nut will hold both of the screws from the side somehow. Maybe a different nut. These nuts. Do you want me to put all of them together?
Yes.
Or do you trust me?
I trust you, but I want to see it.
Okay. Magnet, please. Fingers make fist. Oh yeah. I made this. I think this is the wrong character, but it's not problem. Yes! Very happy. I prepared everything with 2 layers of Mr. Super Clear and this reddish brownish spray paint and covered the gauntlets in it. But I think it was a mistake because they turned out almost brown. So I sprayed it with MSC again and will try to rescue the color with acrylic paints and airbrush. It took ages to paint it all evenly, and the joints will probably stay forever bright red, but I think it looks much better now. The gems need a few layers of pinkish red paint, and the tips of the fingers are black. I also added a few layers of yellow to the star, so it looks a bit better with the translucent star on top. One more layer of Mr. Super Clear and the gauntlets are ready. And this is how Garnet turned out. I'm really happy that we revisited this character this Pride season because we actually made cotton candy Garnet in our very early days of making dolls. I really enjoyed the challenge of making a different body type with just thread and fabric. It was kind of like making a plushie, but a very sexy one. Even though I actually haven't seen Steven Universe, making the characters from the show is always such a joy because you get to interpret a very cartoony and simple animation into a somewhat real-world little person, you know? So if you have a favorite Steven Universe character that we haven't made yet, make sure to leave them in the comments and we'll see what we can do. Make sure to follow us on Instagram for some sneak peeks and subscribe for future videos. Visit Patreon for behind-the-scenes content and the upcoming annual Patreon collaboration. Have an enchanted day, have an enchanted Pride, and we will see you next time. Bye-bye! Let's thank our top Lost Sister tier supporters, Stephanie Deer, Adia Bear, Barb from the Future, and Red X. Shout out to our cousins, Remy, Hilary Solomon, Asha Hasuna, Zari, Reese's Cup, Willa Vanilla, Hope Z, North Soul, Sofa Cushion, Angel Silver Rose, Vibrant Sprite, Malachite, Alienite, Whimsy, Whitetails, Kito Kato, Krista Hopper, Doll Dragon, Leandros Things, DM Bakayaro Onna Smith, Melissa Novoa, Rinth, Fan of TA, Ashley, Andrea Selector Gain, Brielty, Stephanie, Carajo, Jane Beck, Caribou, Ninja Sardozino, and last but not least, Catherine Nudden. And our Enchanter Supreme Lever channel member, Balin. Thanks, guys!